What's up, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of Moving with Life. Thanks for joining me. I am live streaming. Let me get rid of the echo because I know it's there, even though I can't hear it. But we're here. I'm able to record again. Obviously, different background, different kind of everything. Everything's changing once again, which is fine. It's cool. It's part of the process. Even it's even part of me kind of still learning about myself. And as I say, I feel maybe it's a little cliche, just a tad. Um, and not completely though, but I am still learning about myself. I've learned I tell you, I've probably learned the most about myself in the past 5 years, and now going into my now I'm going into my 30s, and so I've been driving a lot, putting a lot of miles in, and so I've had a lot of time to think. I don't know how I've listened to hours of podcasts. Today's probably the most, and probably because I got a good night's sleep last night. I got to sleep and it was nice. Um, but I was driving. I've been driving, and there was definitely a moment today where I was probably in my third Joe Rogan podcast, roughly. And I've been listening to long ones, because most Joe Rogans are the most of them are 3 hours, and then the ones I've been listening to are 3 to 4 hours. Because even Protect Our Parks, I listened to the very first one, which was back in November, with Ari Shafir, Shane Gillis, Mark Norman, and Joe Rogan. And I believe the most recent one was like closer to 4 hours, but the first one was like around 3 hours. And so I listened to that yesterday, and I finished it this morning. But my point is, I've been listening to a lot. I've had a lot of time to think, and I'm not gonna use the word evaluate because that's not. I'm not like consciously because I'm just sitting there driving. I'm not consciously all the time. I'm not always constantly thinking like, oh, how can I improve? What's wrong with me? Well, I'm not constantly doing like a SWOT analysis on myself. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'm not doing that. That's not. But I have been on again. I've been driving, so I have had that time to just kind of sit there, listen to a podcast, and then think about, oh wow, huh, and I kind of will realize something about myself to include and to tie up this point, as we jump into this episode, because I like to kind of jump in right away. I'm not trying to abuse your time, but there's definitely a point today where, as I was driving and listening and going about my business, where I realized with the right amount of rest, I like isn't the right word. I don't mind driving. I prefer flying, 100% prefer flying, but in this circumstance, I am driving for many reasons, not just one. But my mindset for the previous like 2 to 3 years, like, man, forget it. I'd rather just fly. That's kind of what I had been doing, just flying everywhere, kind of getting everywhere within a day. And right now that I'm doing this sort of road trip scenario, I I um I I realize with the right amount of sleep that I feel okay. I'm again today. I mean, I think the whole, see, 4 hours today. Then this morning, for what I worked, even when I worked out, I listened to like maybe two songs, and I put on the Protect My Parks podcast episode, and so I don't know. I'd say for at least a solid 6 hours today. And even when I went to go eat, so yeah, let's just say 6 to 8 hours today, I listened to podcasts, and it wasn't until like kind of towards the end of this stretch where I I was like, oh, I haven't listened to a single song. I listened to a song this morning, which I just remember right now. But at that time when I was in my truck, I was like, oh, I haven't listened to a single song today. And I was like, oh man. I intentionally put on a song because I was like, oh, I need to change it up. I'm not, I don't, I weirded myself out, if that makes sense. I weirded myself out. And so I was like, oh, in my mentally I kind of freaked out for a split second, and I put on a song, and I don't remember what music I was putting, but I put some couple songs. Then eventually I also honestly went to a podcast again because Bill Maher was on Joe Rogan recently, and the episode just got released today. So that's the latest episode I've been listening to. Speaking of podcasts and people and relevancy, I only know the name because he was the freaking parrot from Aladdin, whatever movie that was, whatever the actor slash comedian's name was, Gilbert Gottfried. He's the voice of the bird that was on Jafar's. What was his name? And earlier I was like, oh, not. I knew it wasn't Zazu, but I was like, oh, Zazu, but I was like, no, that's not Zazu's the one from Lion King. Jafar Bird Aladdin. Let's see. Sultan. Yes. Can you not just give me the name of the bird? Oh my god. So anyways, to tie in a more serious note. So today I was on Joe Rogan. I wasn't on. Oh, that'd be pretty dope. I wasn't on Joe Rogan. I was listening to Joe Rogan, and I got so far ahead. I got I guess I got caught up to this morning. I got caught up, so I started going back into like old episodes that maybe I hadn't listened to, or that some that it didn't interest me right away. And so then Gilbert Gottfried was one of the. This was back in November-ish, October-ish, and I was actually not even. I was in a different location, and at the time I was listening to a lot of podcasts as well. But it's not relevant. It kind of is, but isn't. Anyways, so Gilbert Gottfried was on there, and I listened to it, and it was solid, solid 3-hour podcast. It was awesome. It was interesting because Gilbert Gottfried, he knew so much information. He had started comedy when he said he was first stepped on stage when he was about 15 years old. It was the late 60s, and he was about 15 years old, and he was 65. Well, today I was on, actually just recently, like, so this is fairly new because no comedian that I've seen yet has posted about the fact that Gilbert Gottfried, it's as far as social media goes, and Instagram is where I saw that Gilbert Gottfried passed away today, last night, this morning. I didn't read much details, just that he was fighting an illness, and he wasn't able to kill off the illness, and so he passed away, and that was pretty sad. And it was and I don't believe in what's the word, I don't believe in coincidences. So I was like, man, that's so interesting. And I heard his stuff. I'm like, man. And that weekend, whatever weekend was back in October, November, he was going to be in Houston. And so that's why he was at Joe Rogan's promoting the show, but having a conversation with Joe Rogan, like everybody who gets to be on that show does. And so, ironic, that's the word I was looking for, because when I read it, I was like, man, there's a little bit of irony there, because I enjoyed what they were talking about, and it seemed like I would at least give his comedy a chance, right? And in seeing that, I don't know, there was just an irony that I felt. I'm not saying, I don't even know if it is actually ironic. I don't know if ironic's the right word to use, but it's how I felt. I felt like there was an irony in the fact that I just heard this guy talk for 3 hours with Joe Rogan. Only knew him from the movie in Aladdin because of the parrot, but I didn't even know he did stand up. And it's funny because he was promoting his cameo, because he would do cameos, especially over COVID. COVID sounds like a season. Over COVID, 2020, that cameo kind of is what held him over, as far as being able to pay bills and whatnot. But nonetheless, he, according to social media, passed away. It's unfortunate. It sucks. I would have, if I would have known he did I only know about a certain little group that Joe Rogan has had on his podcast, and in this episode, by chance, I didn't listen to it then, and I don't even know if I don't know if I would have even made a show anyways. But nonetheless, um, it was awesome hearing just a story and all these things that he knows about as far as comedy and singers and how comedy like venues used to have singers and comedians. It wasn't just that. Like I think Pat Benatar, he was mentioning how Pat Benatar made her not her debut or break, but she started in comedy, not theaters, in comedy room, just in rooms, comedy rooms, comedy spaces. So, anyways, so that's that. Unfortunate, but I wanted to mention it because again, it was just ironic for me. Because I don't believe in coincidences. It's more irony in the fact that hey, this would have been cool to hear his actual comedy and not knowing because I didn't even know he did comedy. But that was that. Moving on, kind of hard to move on, kind of hard to segue. Um, and I don't, and actually, I didn't mean to get this deep quickly, so I don't want to, because I had actually a thought that I wanted to get deep on, but in my drive, as I've been driving, I got to pass through a lot of towns in Texas. I took specific back roads, like not secret back roads, just specific back roads to kind of to avoid traffic for the most part. And it's interesting because I actually did. I didn't have to go through Austin and some of these cities that I know I would have hit traffic, and it probably wouldn't have lasted long. I've been pretty lucky in those scenarios not lasting long. And like yeah, even when I've gone to Austin, even like 3-4 years ago, there was always traffic, but it never lasted long. Anyways, took some back roads to continue my trek, to continue my drive, my adventure, my drive. And as I passed through the first town, I forgot what song came out. And I wish I would have written what song came out. But there was a couple of songs, and I think one of them was like maybe like Refrigerator Door, or like a more heartfelt song, not necessarily a sad song, not necessarily a heartbreak song, but I can't remember if it was Luke Combs or whatever song I was into. This was Sunday night. Yeah, 'cause today's Tuesday. My bad. Today's not Wednesday. Today's Tuesday. So on Sunday night, and I was making my way through a few of these towns, and as I was going through there, and it was late at night, it was not even like crazy late. It was like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and everything's just shut down. Everything's just shut down, and I said, "Wow, this is wild! Like, how would I be if I was able to live, or not that I'm not able to, or can't in the future or whatever, but in me driving through there, 8:30, 7:30, 8:30 at night, and everything's like the town's shut down. Everything's closed. The only thing that are open was convenience store, and even one of the convenience stores, I won't forget it. One of the convenience stores, even it was closed. You could probably pump gas. The lights were on, obviously, but the store itself was closed. It's like, oh wow. It's like, how would that be? How would that feel? And it's like, oh, like there was it wasn't even nostalgia. There was a a different sense of something that I felt of like, oh, that would be nice. And you go to work and you probably know everyone knows you, and there's a balance there though, because then there's like that that small town like cliche talk of well, everybody knows everybody, and everybody talks behind their back, or not, or maybe doesn't talk behind their back, whatever. But there was still something that gave me like a nice feeling, like maybe I could try this in the future. I said I don't, or like I said, I mean, these are all thoughts and theories at the moment, but nonetheless, it was something that I liked. It was like, oh, it's nice, like everything, everybody's home, no one's out, doing nonsense. And because I was thinking, because maybe it was maybe it was like closer to 9, so 8:30, 9 o'clock. Let's just say it's a little bit later, because when I passed through, there was a couple of towns. One was, did I write it down? No, I didn't write them down. But one was, I know one was Crockett, and it was a Sunday, so nothing was open late anyways. Because I'm trying to think of, either way, one of them was Crockett. I'm like, oh wow, like everything's kind of closed, or everything's closed down. And it's a Sunday, and it's a small town, so it's probably stuff probably hasn't even been open today. It's one of those towns where it's still very much Monday through Saturday. Saturday you kind of do your errands or whatever, go out at night, and then Sunday you go to church or you stay in or you have breakfast or you do whatever you want or it's a day of rest. It's Sunday, and so it was just cool. It was cool seeing it. It was cool driving through. There's no traffic, zero traffic. There's one of the times I definitely hit like cars, but there was no traffic. Um. Anyways, one of the points is even when as I was driving through, like man, like I was thinking about how so one of the later towns when it was nighttime, I was thinking like man, even right now, even where I'm from, like there's not a million people where I'm from. There's not even there's probably by now it's probably getting close to 100,000. It's not I don't think it's quite 100,000. So last time I saw it was like 82,000 where I'm from, and so even being a big bigger town as far as population goes because it's a metro area where I'm from. It's not I don't consider it a city. It's the city of Edinburgh, but yeah, it's under 100,000 people. San Antonio has 1 million people. That's a city. L.A. has 4 million people. That's a city, right? Or at least in my opinion, that's what it was. But I was thinking about like man, even back home, like there's a bunch of ruckus and everybody's at Whataburger or Sonic or Stars or going to Walmart real quick, because they close at 11 now. They're not. It's still where they're not open 24 hours yet or anymore. Um, but it was nice. And to continue, I stopped at like 2 or 3 Buc-ee's because I didn't know there were this many Buc-ee's outside of Texas. There's a good amount of Buc-ee's outside of Texas, which is pretty cool. It's pretty dope. But um, as I was driving and going through Buc-ee's a few different times, a few different places, I was like, man, because it felt so good. Like there's like Texas flags and there's stuff that you can buy that's Texas related, and obviously Buc-ee's is Texas. It's a Texas thing, and even here where I'm at now, they're making a Buc-ee's is pretty dope. And it just where I'm at, it feels like an extension, and to include the Buc-ee's, it feels like an extension of Texas. And so then I was thinking to myself, am I that biased to Texas? And I was like, hell yeah, I am. For like, I don't know. I've never been one to, or I've tried my best to stay stoic and everything, and keep my head on straight because I have work to do. I have things to do. I have things I want to accomplish. I have goals. I have ambitions. But if there's one thing that I am emotional about, that I do feel strongly and I don't feel arrogant about it, but I feel proud to be from Texas. And that's one thing that makes me happy. Is like I like saying that I'm from Texas. I like being from Texas. I like the things that come with Texas and the things that Texans are doing to include making Buc-ee's outside of Texas. Even Whataburgers. I've been seeing like Whataburgers like even a couple states out from going into the southeast from Texas, not from Texas. It's been nice because as the trees have gone greener and taller and more hilly, or the roads have gone more hilly. That's not even a word, but it's okay. It just feels like a big extension of Texas, and it makes me, and I feel very comfortable. I feel there's something that makes there's something about the air here that's not the West Coast. There's something it's not the West Coast, and thank God it's not the West Coast. I've only felt more comfortable and more happy as I kept driving. And maybe that's to go back to my initial point of this episode. Maybe that's one thing. Maybe that's one thing about the episode. Maybe that's one thing about being over here now is, and being comfortable with driving so much, is the fact that it just feels like an extension of Texas. Like, and one thing that I want to document and I want to note is that as I've gotten deeper into the South, and I'm talking about like the South, like Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Louisiana, like as I've gotten deeper into the South, the hospitality here is like it's legit. It's been so nice. People have been nice. I stopped at a Petro. I had an iron skillet. It had a steer burger steak. It had grilled onions and brown gravy, and I had a little baked potato. It was delicious. I'll say Miss J because she, and that I know of, she won't see this probably ever, but she was awesome. She was just so nice. And if I'm being honest, when I first saw her, I'm like, oh man, she might have she looks like she's having a bad day. And she came up and she brought my sweet tea. I asked her for sweet tea. She brought my sweet tea. She brought me a menu, and then she refilled my tea like two times. No, she refilled it once. She gave me the tea and fruit. So I've been trying to eat and drink a little bit less sugar. Trying to cut down just a tad. But she was so nice. She's like, "Can I get you anything? Can I get you anything else? Do you want sweet tea to go? Um, thanks for your patience. Think she was thanking me for my patience because they were making the order, blah blah, and she had to like do something real quick that they were asking her to. Um, but it's been refreshing, and not to say that people back home or in Texas aren't nice. I feel like there are a lot of nice people, but there's something different here. The air is different here. That's my point. That's my premise. That's my thought as I've gone deeper into the South. It's like the air is different here, and it's so nice. It's just different. And maybe because I have been living on the West Coast for 2 years, and again, for the most part, people aren't mean. People aren't rude. I mean, people that I listen to as far as their podcasts and their conversations, for the most part, people aren't mean, and they're not. But that my waitress earlier was super nice. Here where I'm at, the person that was helping me, she was super nice, and I was like, man. And I text Brian, I'm like, hey, dude, there's something about the South, like, and I don't know what it is, but they're nice. And he's like, and Southern hospitality, Southern manners ? I was like, yeah, and that's what it is. But to feel it and to have a sense of relief behind it, that's what has felt the best about this whole thing. In this past, let's say 24 hours from now, leading to me talking about this, so the Southern hospitality, it's been nice, and I just want to remark that it's appreciated for me, because I can just go about my day, and then everything's fine. They're working, they're doing what they can to provide for their families and themselves. And it's funny because on the contrary, I was at Burger King yesterday for my first meal in the afternoon. I've also been trying to intermittent fast just a little bit more as well. But I was at a Burger King, and I walked in, open the door, I walk in, and this lady, she doesn't zoom by me, but she's like, "Excuse me." I was like, "Yes, ma'am." Like, go ahead. Like, and she's like, "This isn't fresh," and that was my first like introduction to Alabama. And I was like, I thought she was maybe gonna go off. I thought maybe she was gonna yell. I didn't know what she was gonna do, but my first impression of Alabama was like, this isn't fresh. And in my head, I'm like, this is a Burger King. Like, I like Burger King. That's why I was there. But I was just curious to how fresh do you want this? This is a fast food restaurant, and no one's here. There's like 2 people and a cook in the back. Obviously, they don't get a ton of business. They get enough business to keep it open. They're even hiring managers, but they and you know what, these workers, they said okay, and they kind of mumbled just a little bit. Didn't last long, because then one was continuing to deliver the orders to the drive-thru outside. The cook remade the meal, made some fresh fries for this lady, and then the girl that was the tender as far as the cashier and then doing the in-store orders, she walked over and gave her new meal, and that was that. And it seems like she was satisfied after that, which is okay. But I just sat there, and I had put on my AirPods originally because I was going to watch a podcast while I was there. But that whole little just thing, and it took but a second. It took but a second to just go in there. And, this isn't fresh. I was like, and does she have a right to argue for fresh food? Because I thought about this. Obviously, that's what I'm talking about. I thought about this. I'm like, man, like, and my only argument is that it's freaking Burger King. There's like, I wonder like what not fresh was to her. Because she say, well, the fries aren't hot. I'm like, well, you can only get them so hot. Every single place, whether it's McDonald's, whether it's Whataburger, whether it's Burger King, whether it's where else? Cane's, like fries only stay so hot for so long. The worst fries ever. I said it, and I can't. I'm live, so I can't erase this. But worst fries ever are In-N-Out. I can't stand it. I've tried them, different places. I'm not gonna argue with anybody about this. I'm just stating my opinion. It's fine. I've tried them in Vegas. I've tried them in Northern California. I've tried them in Southern California. Vegas, Northern, Southern. Yeah. Three different instances at minimum I've tried them. And no bueno, no good for me. I don't like fries from In-N-Out. Point is, you can only get fries so hot and so fresh before they're no good. That's why by the next day they're no good. They're stale. You can't put them in the fridge, or you can't save them for later. You can't. That's my opinion. Like, if you want fresh, you get them. They give them to you. They give them, and that's it. Now, there are some instances where I've experienced where I can tell that they've put these through the ringer a couple of times. I'm like, hey, can you give me some? Just give me better fries. Like, maybe you don't like your job. That's fine. I don't care. Just give me some better fries. I'm not asking for the most fresh fries, but just give me some better fries. Because you put through the ringer like 3 or 4 times, and I can tell because they're like hard and crunchy. They're not even like crunchy like on the inside. Like to say like, oh, they're I'm even an hour old. Like no. Like they're like, like 24 hours. Like I'm like, hey, come on, don't do that either. Like see, there's a difference. Now, if that was a scenario, if that's the scenario, different story. She has a right to argue, or not argue. She has a right to complain. She has a right to get fresh fries. Cool. I don't know what was wrong with her burger. I didn't hear what she said was wrong with her. But anyway, I babbled too long on that Burger King story. But I wanted to mention it because it was from an inch at the beginning. It was funny to me. It was funny. It was funny to me because it was like, oh, this is how we're starting today, huh? This is how, because I'd driven all morning, so I hadn't really stopped. I think I stopped once for gas before that, and that was my next gas stop, and I got some food. And I was like, oh, so this is how this is gonna start. And I smiled at the people working because I was like, hey, like I'm cool. I'm not gonna be like that. As long as my food's decent, there's no like crazy, nothing crazy. Obviously, there's circumstances where like, hey, whoa, this will not fly. But they made my food. They made it good. It tasted good. They put a lot of mustard and mayo, which I wasn't mad about. I wasn't mad about it at all. But it was just an observation. Like, oh, you guys put a lot of mustard and mayo. That's okay. So, anyways, that was my BK experience, and then I don't feel like talking about that. I don't feel like talking about that either. Oh, I skipped over. So let's rewind just like a second or two. So Saturday I was barbecuing. I made some fajitas. Oh, like I don't know why they make for me. And I had some taste testers and say, hey, taste this for me. Taste this for me. Taste, different cuts of the meat, and I seasoned it all the same. So, but that was my concern because for me, for whatever reason, at least in the last week or so, I've been tasting stuff stuff has been very salty to me, and the way I season the fajitas, that's the way I season them all the time. Like I didn't change a thing. I didn't change a thing. I used my base. I used the seasoning, and then I threw them on. I got my grill to how I wanted it. Threw them on there. Eventually started smoking. I put them off to the side so I can start smoking them. Smoking for like an hour and I think I did like an hour and 20 minutes this last time. And so anyways, so I've been tasting very salty, and anyways, so barbecuing with my family, we're having a great time, having a lot of laughs. We had a lot of laughs. That's because I didn't even drink alcohol. Honestly, I was gonna say we didn't even drink alcohol. There's a couple people drinking alcohol, but that's fine. But I wasn't because I had started driving and whatnot. So anyway, my cousins, to include Matt, my cousins brought like these hot sauces that they bought because they wanted to try them, and they like hot like spicy stuff. And by the time I think I had already finished eating, so I wasn't interested in that. I wanted cake. That's what I wanted. Anyways, at some point one of them I think had ghost peppers and like habanero or something like that. I don't know what they had, a mix of them, and there's like a bunch of jalapenos. And like one thing that was side note surprising to me was that there's no like they didn't say how many Scovilles like the sauce was. It was just hot, and they had like so many jalapenos for like how hot they were, the sauces. And so my uncle starts like sweating a little bit, and he's like, and he's like, I'm like, it took me for a loop for one, and it made me throw back to a time in Enchanted World where my grandpa was. My grandpa, it's not that he didn't like. I mean, we all like spice. I've grown, even now. I've grown into liking spicier and spicier food. I like spicy food. Um, Oil gives me worse heartburn than actual spicy food. Like oily, greasy food gives me more heartburn than actual spicy food. Anyways, my grandpa back in the day, at least back in the day for me, because I was like this tall, but my uncle started choking, and not like he wasn't choking on his food; he was choking because of the hot stuff. I'm like, "Are you grandpa? Like, is grandpa here right now?" Well, no, my grandpa passed away, but I started laughing because back in the day, my grandma would get so pissed. She'd be like, ¿Qué haces, Jose? Ya sabes que like, you know, you can't eat hot stuff. Like, Joe, like, you can't eat hot stuff. What are you doing? And my grandpa's in the restaurant just wanting to vomit, but absolutely cannot, because there's nothing to like. It wasn't the vomit, it wasn't the food, it was the spice, and my grandpa's digestive system was not friendly to spicy food, and so there's just I remember who I don't know if it was like what it was a dinner somewhere, and I don't know again. I don't know if it was like a dinner for my aunt. I don't know if it was like quinceañera or a wedding. I don't remember which one it was, but I just remember hearing my grandpa. And at the beginning, I thought he was sick, but then my grandma was getting pissed. And then I'm saying what I'm telling you. I'm telling this story as I'm on this past Saturday. My dad's laughing, and I'm laughing at my uncle. Again, I'm not laughing at him, but it just reminded me completely. It took me completely back to like 1998 when I'm at my grandma's house. I'm just giving a random possible year, but and my grandma was pissed. She was pissed because it's like, yeah, sabes, Jose, you already know, like you can't eat hot stuff. And how many you hit up on it? And he's like, no, come out of it. And obviously he's lying because he wouldn't be getting sick. That wouldn't be happening to his body if he hadn't eaten spicy food. That's how you knew he ate spicy food, because he would get super sick within like a couple hours. So my uncle's there dying, and I'm like, you need some milk, you need whatever, and he ended up drinking a beer, which was fine. It was just funny, and I wanted to remark, because that was one of those stories that I remember. And on Saturday, I was reminiscing with my aunt and my friends and my aunt and my family in general, but there's just different moments where, like, my aunt was telling me some stories about my padrino, my godfather, and she was telling me and how people help people and strangers help people, and how a lot of these people that knew my uncle, my godfather, helped her a lot whenever she was in a bind, back in the day when he was alive. And it made me think of, man, it's crazy that, and this was earlier in the day where I'm talking about this with my aunt. I'm like, it's crazy how we remember those things, and it's not always bad things. It's in my head I was thinking like, oh, we always remember the worst things, because it's the trauma that we remember, right? Whether we actually consciously remember or it's our subconscious, where trauma sits, right? But I was like, hey, it's I said I try to keep it lighthearted, because obviously we were reminiscing, we were talking, we were reminiscing, and I was like, it's funny how you remember those stories. And she's like, yeah. She's like, my life's changed. So I'm like, yeah, like, and that's where, like, I mean, it got a little deep for a second, but I tried to just reel us back a little bit, because it's like, well, we have those stories, we have those memories, and that's one thing that I like. I really like. I the fact that we can tell these stories, the fact that we can remember these things. There's just something about it to me, like, cause I kind of put a pin on it. I can't put a specific like word, but I know that telling stories, I know that remembering stories and putting ourselves in that space it changes our physiology and our chemical balances and the psychology behind how we act. Um, and sometimes when you remember those things that make you laugh, or even sometimes make you sad, and in this case, I'm there barbecuing, and we're talking, we're having a conversation. Um, but nonetheless, at the end of it, I was like, man, but I'm like, but I did say, but I'm like, but this is nice. It's like, this is what we have. This is what you have. These are the memories you have, and so to appreciate them and keep them dear, because then the way I take it, and I didn't go into this then, but the way I take it is I cherish those because I know what hurt is and I know how that feels. So I try to live better. And living better is communicating or helping, giving, um, any one of those things. Um, yeah, it was just nice. And even now, like I remember feeling like just there was a certain amount, a certain type of comfort in the stories that she was telling me. Because there's multiple instances, and this was like over like an hour where she was telling like 2 or 3 different stories, and circumstances where he had a friend that could help her, or this happened, and then he showed up, and there's just several circumstances, and funny things that happen with with the car as they were trying to trade one in and getting the other, and all these things that happened, all these unwanted circumstances, but something you can't control. You can't control everything, right, all the time. But there was just a comfort. I'm like, yeah, but we have those, and that's why I like doing this, because it helps me document. It helps me remember it just a little bit longer. Helps me remember things just a little bit longer, um, to see to then see what really matters. See what matters, and to stay lighthearted. Even about myself. It's like you know, I don't mind, and I said this before. And I say it to people all the time, especially when people don't know me. And it's funny because especially when people don't know me and they're getting to know me, and so they do little. I've had little tests. Like one time, I had this one person turn off my computer when I stepped away. I came back. I'm like, oh, my computer's off, and it took me literally 5 seconds to realize, oh, these guys turned off my computer, and I was like, hmm. So I turned it on, and I acted like nothing. And then I saw a couple of my peripherals are pretty good. Like my peripherals go pretty well, go pretty good as far as out this way. And they made a couple of gestures that I caught as I was resetting my computer or restarting my computer. Everything was fine. And they're like, oh, he's not going to do anything. I'm like, no, because I don't mind being the butt of the joke. I don't mind being the butt of the joke. It's fun. It's funny. I try not to take myself serious, because there are moments when I have to be serious and like, hey, game on, turn on the switch and let's go. Um, and so that's one thing that I have done in the past year and a half ish time frame, where, again, going back to the beginning of this episode, where I'm always serious, but I feel like I've tried to get better because I try not to take myself so serious all the time. There are things that I care about that I want to elaborate or exclaim um, or bring emphasis to, but even with those things, it's like, well, yeah, but life is good. Like, it's super easy. Um, Now the goals, ambitions, yeah, it takes work. Yes, it takes work, but life is easy, and I'm glad it's easy. It's simple, not easy. It goes back to the Jocko principle. It's like, it's simple, not easy. There's this you what you life is okay. Let me rephrase this whole little connect. Life is simple. It's very simple. Not everything's easy because you have goals, you have ambitions, you have things you want to do, you have things you want to accomplish, you have places you want to go, things you want to do, people you want to see, things you want to see, um, experience. But all you have to do is go do it. But what does it take? Hard work, a little bit of sweat, sometimes some blood, maybe a broken hand or a broken finger or broken toe or broken foot or something. But it's there. It's super simple. It's there. It's there. Whatever that is, it's there for you. It's there for you for the taking. Okay. Let's draw it back as we move through today's episode, because the basketball playoffs are starting today, technically today. I don't know who's playing today. I was gonna bring it up on the screen, but I'm just gonna leave it alone. I still want to know what the freaking bird's name is. Let's see, Jafar Bird Aladdin. Before I Lago? Iago? It's saying Lago. Iago? I don't remember. Either way, let's move on. So play in tournament. So I've mentioned this especially last episode. I mentioned where I'm not too in tuned with the NBA because I am of all the teams of Texas, of all the teams in sports that are in Texas, the Spurs are definitely the sole team of basketball that's the team that I like. I don't like Dallas. I don't like Houston. And not I don't have anything against them. I am a sole Spurs fan. I like the Rangers. I like Houston. Rangers are sucking right now. When I use them on MLB, they lose terribly. They don't have a roster. It's like, what is going on here? Houston has, with the exception, I think, who did they do? Springer, I think, recently. Was it Springer or was it somebody else? Did Correa get traded? I don't know. I don't want. I'm not jumping into baseball yet. Because I'm not going to for today. I just, in me mentioning about being a Spurs fan recently and not really a basketball, but I am a Spurs fan. I was like, well, I knew they had been doing good, so I'm like, well, let me look up, and I didn't even know the playoffs were starting today, or like, yeah, I didn't know we were already this late into the playoffs, and so as I'm looking up, try to find some standings, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, the playoffs are starting this week. I'm like, oh, the playoffs starting today, not just like this week or whatever. They're starting today. They go into tomorrow, and then the full playoffs I think kick off over the weekend. So today the Cleveland Cavaliers play the Brooklyn Nets. LA Clippers play the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then tomorrow it's the Charlotte Hornets against the Atlanta Hawks. The San Antonio Spurs versus the New Orleans Pelicans. And then on Friday will be the winner of Game 3 against the loser of Game 1. And the winner of Game 4 versus loser of Game 2. All kind of confusing. I'm not going to repeat it because it's fine. You can find it online. If you are a basketball fan anyways, you know this better than I do. All I want is the Spurs to win. And so if at the very least, whenever I can podcast again, that's all I'm going to keep up on is the Spurs. I think F1 starting soon. Baseball has kicked off, but I haven't really been in tune with it. I don't follow too much specific baseball teams like on Twitter or Instagram. I follow John Boy Baseball, John Boy Media, whatever it is, where they cover a bunch of baseball and they cover all the baseball, like college, professional, minor league. They cover all baseball, which is pretty dope. So I kind of used them as like a general scope of like what the heck's going on. But nonetheless, I want the Spurs to win. I hope the Spurs win, and then whenever I can, hopefully do this again, then I can talk about the Spurs some more. And we'll see how well they do. I mean, this is again, I had already started seeing the name pop up. I know the last month of games, if they weren't already winning, they were doing well. I knew that much, and so today finally, okay, hey, they're in the playoffs. Cool, that's all that matters to me. Excuse me. The playoffs are still kind of weird for me, for NBA, but I'll learn it because the Spurs are I'll learn it because the Spurs are there, and hopefully they win. Or go as far as they can. I'll see. We'll see. We'll see how far they go. I talked about that. Talked about the lady at Burger King. Oh, so I was driving through Georgia, and I almost wasn't gonna mention this because I'm like, well, it's almost embarrassing. It's like no shit. It's almost embarrassing, but I thought it was hilarious, and I was like, man, like I'm not that short. Okay, I'm 5'8", which that's like the average height. Right? I'm gonna say that average height. Well, I had crossed the state line into Georgia, and I needed to go to the restroom, so I did. So I go and I'm walking, and I go up to the urinal, and the urinal feels. I'm not saying it is. It feels like it's like this high. Like the urinal feels like it's super high. And I'm standing up. I'm like, what the heck? I had like so I've been to many states. I've been to. I think now I've been to 38 to 39, 38, 38 states ish. More than 36. I think 38, if not 39. None of that. I've been to more than 36 at least. At the very minimum, been more than 36. I've been to multiple rest areas along the East Coast, all the way through the West Coast, and this is the first time in my entire lifetime that I saw a urinal that I was like, "That's really tall. That's made for a tall person." Then I go to like the small one, right? And I'm like, "Oh, I wonder if this one's like normal height, for me." And it was low, but also slightly taller. Like it was. They were, and I was like, "What the heck, man?" It just it just threw me for a loop, and I wasn't ready. I was not ready. I also wasn't ready for the freaking time change. I didn't expect time change on me yesterday. I thought it would change as I got farther east. I thought it was gonna change to farther east, but it apparently didn't. Because I lost an hour. I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna throw me off. Anyways, so yeah, apparently the tallest urinals are in Georgia at this rest area right past the state line. Because I was like, oh, I'm not anywhere where I've ever been before. Because again, this is not a thing where I'm like, I've never seen. They've all been relatively a normal height to my knowledge until I now crossed into Georgia, and I'm not in Georgia right now, but it was hilarious. I was laughing, and I was like, thank God I'm by myself in this freaking restroom, because I was like, what's going on? Like, I hope I can't be the only one who like not 100% like freaked out about this, but I can't be the only person that's just like, hey, this is not normal, like normal height. It's not normal, and that sort of one is also not normal height. Like, what the heck's going on? What the heck's going on? Oh man, it was too funny. It was too funny. Got introduced to some new music. Also, another point about the South is that, at least for today, because I've been in the South since yesterday and then through today, at least through today, every time I've gotten off, like to go eat. Well, that's false. I've gone to eat once, but every time I've gotten off, like for a stretch break, or even when I got here, like in the elevators, truck stop when I was at the Petro, getting food. I heard Kobe Cooper, I had Parker McCullum, I heard some Jason Isbell, and I was like, I'm set. And when Kobe Cooper came, I'm like, oh, like it took me another but 5 seconds to realize, they're playing Kobe Cooper. That's pretty dope. Like, I'm like, but being in the South, it actually makes sense. Like, everything from Nashville down south, and then through Texas, Oklahoma, this whole basically region, the whole area, the whole like Gulf Seaboard. I'm saying Gulf Seaboard, but like this whole area, to include like Nashville and whatnot. Because a lot of Texas artists record in Nashville anyway, so it's fine. That's the way it is, right? But when you hear stuff on the radio or satellite radio or chosen radio, because I don't know what happened, because Kobe Cooper came on in the song "Excuses," which I think was his most recent. He released it a while back, but I think it's still just the most current release that he has out right now. So that song came on. I'm like, oh, I'm there walking in the Petro, and I had finished eating. I'm like, oh, that's pretty dope. Like, I hadn't heard a relevant song like that in a long time. And I don't listen to the radio. To be fair, I don't listen to radio, or like Sirius or anything like, or like satellite radio, all of it inclusive. I don't listen to any of that stuff. And I was like, oh, that's freaking dope. And so I tweeted about it. I'm like, oh, it's pretty cool not being in Texas and hearing a Texas artist on like the radio. I just put the radio. And then that song ends. I was like, oh, it's pretty cool. And then I start hearing, I'm like, I know the song. And he starts singing, like, it's Park McCullum playing It's Pretty Hard. I think it's also his most current. It's not his most recent release, because he's released that one also, I think, late last year or something. Or it's I think his most recent release, but not. It's not that. It's not new. It's not like new. It's not. It's not a month old. It's like months old, right? And so I heard. I was like, oh, that's. I'm like, someone has to be from Texas. Like at that point, I'm like, oh, someone's choosing. Someone's choosing the music. So like to put Colby Cooper and then Parker McCullum back to back. I'm like, ah. And that the song lasted long enough from where I walked out and that was I didn't hear any more music from there. Um, I was like, oh, it was nice. Again, one of those refreshing moments where I think it just helped enhance my my opinion of the South, a growing one because I haven't been here in a long time. And not that I've driven and gotten off like a bunch of times either. I have been through here, but like it's not too often. But nonetheless, I've been here. And so then I'm in the elevator here, and Jason Isbell is on the overhead here. I'm like, oh, like that again, cherry on top, icing on the cake, whatever you want to call it. It was great. It was great, and it just made it just makes me feel better because it's like, oh, this is music I listen to. When I was on the West Coast, I felt like I was the only one. And when I'm actually, to be fair, when I'm at a lot of places, like I can be in Texas and still feel like I'm the only one listening to certain songs, certain music. But the fact that I heard 3 songs within like an hour of each other, 2 from Texas, 1 from he always says Muscle Shoals area of Alabama. Um, it was all refreshing because I was out in the public, and if this is out in the public, that means people listen to this music, and it makes me happy, and it makes me content with everything that's going on in the world. Not everything, but like as far as music goes. So yeah, new song that I heard recently yesterday got sent to me via text. It said it's a titled "Weary Traveler" by Jordan Saint Cyr. I don't know. CYR is the last name. It's kind of weird. And the lyrics is really good. The lyrics are super, super good. Let me see. Weary Traveler lyrics, and I'm wrapping up after this music talk because music makes me happy and sad sometimes. So it's fine. But the lyric goes: "Weary traveler, beat down from the storms that you have weathered, feels like this road just might go on forever. Carry on." When I heard that for the first time, and it starts kind of low, band's kind of really off, like there's not much volume to the band. There's not much going on. They're not busy. But weary traveler, beat down from the storms that you have weathered, feels like this road just might go on forever. Carry on. It's like, oh, that's such a good, like it's a line. I mean, like that's such a, like I'm hooked. Like now I want to know what else he says. So then you keep on giving, but every day this world just keeps on taking. Your tired heart is on the edge of breaking. Carry on. And I was like, man, this guy's good. Like I need to investigate more. I need to see what other music he has. But whenever I get these one-offs of these new songs, new artists, for me, definitely makes me super excited, because music's awesome. Because it makes you feel everything. It doesn't matter. It makes you feel everything. There's so many TikTok people that are doing awesome covers and awesome renditions. Excuse me. Awesome covers, awesome renditions, and they're making it their own, and they're making you feel something again. If you actually listen to the radio, even me going back home and hearing the same that it's been, not much has changed, and it's annoying. That part's annoying, and it's like, yeah, like there's so much freaking music out here. Anyways, let me stay on track and something positive. I'm gonna get fired up and it's nothing. So then let's see, that's the chorus. Okay, the chorus is: "Weary traveler, restless soul, you were never meant to walk this road alone. It'll all be worth it. So just hold on, weary traveler, you won't be weary long." So good, so good. No more. This is the next verse, the third verse. "No more searching. Heaven's healing's gonna find where all the hurt is. When Jesus calls, we'll lay down all our heavy burdens. Carry on." Then it goes back into the chorus. Then the bridge. Someday the bridge and the bridge and refrain is, "Someday soon we're gonna make it home." And when it got into that part, it's kind of building up. Someday we're gonna make it home. It's like this song is saying what I've been feeling, and not all the time, because I like being with my family. Like there are people help keep me together. There's a group of people that help keep me together and keep me aligned to then continue my goals and my ambitions and things I strive for. Um, but when it comes to a physical home or physical place, like where am I? And that's the question, is like, where am I gonna end up? Like, I don't know. I don't know where I'm gonna end up. I legit don't know. I'm not even lying or exaggerating or not. I'm not even not thinking. I'm thinking about it all the time because, like, man, like, I don't know where I'm gonna end up. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I know what I like. I know what I do, but like, for me, it's more of like a actual physical, tangible thing. It's like, I don't know. I don't know where that thing is. Where that thing is. What that thing is. Um. But anyways, yeah. Someday soon we're gonna make it home. It's like, yeah, like someday soon. I don't know when. And right now I don't. And that's why the song feels so relevant to me. Then the last part, weary soldier, restless soul, you were never meant to walk this road alone. It'll all be worth it. So just hold on, weary traveler, you won't be weary long. And it's out from there. So yeah, that's a song that was sent to me, and I listened to it a couple times because the first time I listened to it, I was like, it got me too hard. Like, man, and whenever things like that happen, I make myself listen to it because, like, man, there's something to the song and it makes me feel a certain way. So I listen to it forcefully. And then by the third or fourth time, I'm like, okay, I can kind of like sit through it and take it all in and again and listen to the lyrics and see, oh, like he wrote this and and he painted this picture for me, and then he hit the chorus refrain, someday we'll make home. It's like that's just the that's the cherry on top. That's the icing on the cake for the song, is like someday we'll make it home, and that's the hope, is in the traveling I've been able to do. I've been for, and the thing is, that's the thing. That's the contrary. That's the that's the other side of the spectrum of the fact that I've been fortunate to do the things I've done, to learn and practice medicine, to play music, to know how to play music, to know how to hear music, to know how to understand music to a certain extent, to embrace change now, like the things that I'm doing. Going from music to medicine, it's like to embrace these things that are new and sometimes scary, but even then, sometimes you don't have time to be scared. There's things to do, there's things to get done, and I'm glad I have that switch that comes on. I'd say accurately and efficiently, where it's like I turn that switch on and the fear goes away. It's like, hey, we have stuff to do. At the very least, I'm gonna have something to learn here today. But yeah, so yeah, Weary Traveler by Jordan St. Cyr. I apologize for not pronouncing it right, but great song. Whether you ever hear this or not, I like the song Weary Traveler, and I will look forward to diving into your music some more and finding some more tunes, and looking forward to new music that you get to come out with. Last song that I'm gonna go over because it came up. I forgot why it came up. I think I was posting me working out this morning, and I was trying to search for the right song because I just took a picture of like my little not mine, but the treadmill I was working out on had a streamer, so I was just taking a picture of it for the social media, and this song's titled Days Like This, and this is after I hear Weary Traveler yesterday. This is this morning. It's a song titled Days Like This by Van Morrison, and even the voice, and I need to see what year it actually came out. So it came out, this makes total sense. So written by Van Morrison as well, but it was released in 1995, which makes sense because when I said Van Morrison, but then if you hear the voice, it's not as fragile as it was. I feel like it was a little more fragile. Like there was a certain thing to it back when he was singing like Moondance and that, like in that era, to the 95, which makes total sense to this song. Great vocal, obviously great vocal, but and he wrote it, so that's even more cool. But the lyric is, when it's not always raining, there will be days like this. When there's no one complaining, there will be days like this. When everyone falls into place like the flick of a switch. Well, my mama told me there will be days like this. That first line, it's so good. Or the first couple lines. So when it's not always raining, there will be days like this. When there's no, this is the one that got me. That I'm like, yes. And the thing is, you only preach what you tolerate, right? You can only do what you can only argue and be mad about the stuff that you're gonna actually fix, and the stuff you're actually gonna improve on. And so when there's no one complaining, there will be days like this, like ah. And that's the way I feel because I'm at the time I'm working out, and it's like when no one's complaining, it's like yeah, no complaining, just get on the fucking treadmill and do the work. And this is me now tying it around, bringing it to myself. It's like hey man, you're good. You got a good sleep, got a good night's sleep. We're here on this treadmill, and it's not like we don't. It's not like we didn't have intention or want to do that, but it was like the song just fit. I'm like okay, cool. And then so the next part is when you don't need to worry, there'll be days like this. When no one's in a hurry, there'll be days like this. When you don't get betrayed by that old Judas kiss, oh my mama told me there'll be days like this. So it's all about the fact that good things do happen, and the majority of the because if you think about even the things that he's mentioning, whether it's raining or complaining, um, when there's no worry, when no one's in a hurry, when you're not getting betrayed, those days exist, and that's the good thing. That's the um that's the good thing. Those are the things that we should focus on. Um, to tie it into the final point, we'll get out of here. I've been going for an hour, which is longest I've gone in a long time. But I wanted to, and that was the intent for today. Um, when you don't, and so I'm going back to the lyrics real quick. When you don't need when you don't need an answer, there will be days like this. When you don't meet a chancer, there will be days like this. When all the parts of the puzzle start to look like they fit, then I just remember there will be days like this, where everything's everything's the way it's supposed to be, which is pleasant, calm, collected, happy. No, again, no. He's mentioned no worry. Um, so moving on. When everyone is up front and they're not playing tricks. When you don't have no freeloaders out there getting their kicks. When it's nobody's business the way that you want to live. I just remember that you'll have days like. I just have to remember there will be days like this. When you can personalize a song like this, and you think about because sometimes, and this is a Tony Robbins bit, not the entire thing, but the line that I'm trying to think of. It's like the things aren't happening to us; things are happening for us. And when you can change that mindset of like, ah, you betrayed, or this person betrayed me, or this person lied to me, my boss sucks. Um, I'm trying to think of more, and right now I'm frankly can't think of anything because I've tried to for this episode for today. I've tried to bring out the 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 good things, whether it's a good story or things that make me feel good. But this song really locked it in for me this morning, and it was a good way to start because I was on I was on the treadmill, and I'm listening to like, man, like this is a good Van Morrison song. I'm glad I heard it now, and I obviously put it in my like my playlist and stuff. I'm like, man, this is a freaking good song. Last stanza is when no one steps on my dreams, there'll be days like this. When people understand what I mean, there will be days like this. When you ring out the changes, when you ring out the changes of how everything is, well, my mama told me there will be days like this. And then it goes into the refrain of, "Oh, my mama told me there'll be days like this." Um, Obviously, there's something to be said about what I feel like what he's trying to say. I don't know. I don't actually don't know much history as far of Van Morrison's life, the way I know like Rascal Flatts or Gary Allen or like some of these other artists and people that I follow like heavily. Um, but yeah, so when no one steps in my dreams, there'll be days like this. When people understand what I mean, there'll be days like this. And even then, I still feel like I have to deconstruct the song a little bit more. I'll have to listen to it. I have to listen to it because, again, when he sings it, it's a different voice. It is him, but even hearing singing as he's gotten old, as he got older. Because I mean, in the '90s, I mean, he was already, he obviously Moondance coming out, and a bunch of other songs that I know of had already come out. But yeah, that was the song that kind of started my day to day, and it's titled "Days Like This" by Van Morrison. Came out in 1995. So if any of these songs that I've mentioned over the past like 20 minutes, so maybe you've heard or maybe you haven't. I don't remember. I don't know what song Jason Isbell was. I don't know what song it was, but I know it was him. I know it was him singing. You recognize his voice. Very 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 distinguishable voice. Jason that he has. But Days Like This, Van Morrison, Weary Traveler by Jordan St. Cyr, Cyr. Kobe Cooper, Excuses, Park McCollum, Pretty Heart, and there's a Jason Isbell song. Just check out, if you don't know who Jason Isbell is, just check out his music anyways. It's awesome. I really like it, especially his live show that I got to see on YouTube. I would like to, that makes me want to go see him live, and we'll get there when we get there. And to tie in, so I'll just tie in because I'm already bringing it up, and then so your thoughts are not your reality. It's a line that Greg Fitzsimmons said on Joe Rogan Experience. Whenever Greg Fitzsimmons was on recently, I don't know if he was on recently. I can't remember exactly when he was on, but that was one of the podcasts I started listening to, I think on Sunday. It's like, I'll start here and I'll work my way through all the podcasts that I need to catch up on or like just keep listening to. Greg Fitzsimmons is funny because I've seen him pop up, but I didn't know who he was. I knew he was a comedian, but he doesn't have a podcast that I knew about. And that's how I've learned about, Brendan Schaub, Chris D'Elia, Brian Callen, Chappelle Lacey, like all these guys, obviously Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, now Mark Norman, Shane Gillis, Ari Shaffir, like all these guys I've heard because they've been on Joe Rogan, but they also have their own podcast. And however I got introduced to their podcasts, that's the way it's been. And Greg Fitzsimmons, I believe he has his own podcast too. I just never got into it. Hearing him now, it's like, okay, I'll definitely get into like his podcast and his and we'll see how his comedy is. Cause I personally don't like all of Joe Rogan's comedy, but I like his podcast. It's whatever. Everybody has their thing, right? But anyways, so they were talking. I don't remember what the context was, but I did write down your thoughts are not your reality, and they were talking about like stoicism and Marcus Aurelius because Joe Rogan was listening to Marcus Aurelius meditations recently, which that's probably one of the biggest influences that have been on me as far as stoicism and being stoic and being grateful, but then not letting your emotions dictate your decision making. And that's probably the biggest thing about stoicism is your emotion. You have emotion, but then it's not going to dictate like what you're going to do next. It's not going to influence what you're going to do next. So anyways, so tie in Days Like This and how we can have days like this. It's pretty simple to me. Like we're just, you're listening to this. I'm making this. I listen to a bunch of podcasts. I listen to a bunch of music. Pretty free for the most part, I'd say. Pretty free. Got to put gas in a gas pump that I wanted to choose. Doesn't matter. I got to choose where I was gonna stop next. I got to eat Iron Skillet. It was delicious. Baked potatoes legit. I'm getting to do this. I'm getting to post this or this going live on YouTube. So yeah, there are days like this, and your thoughts are not reality. And there's a whole psychological thing. I'll probably go deeper into that line another day. But it's a good way that we can wrap today. It's a good way to wrap. Yeah, we're reaching an hour and 10 minutes now. And so I appreciate you for just coming along for the ride. I've been very active on my Snapchat because I've had plenty of time to be active on my Snapchat. All the social medias of as far as Instagram, TikTok, Twitter is Andy_MWL. Snapchat, I'm gonna post it on my social media in a bit. But my Snapchat is, come on, bro, let's go. Andy MWL, no underscores, no nothing, just Andy MWL. I'm kind of glad I got that one tied in. I got that one locked in because then now it's just mine, at least for now. So yeah, andyacosta.blog is where you can find everything. I need to start working on this month's blog. I already have the ideas. I just need to put them down and get some coffee shop vibes and type it out and post it on there. So yeah, I hope you got something out of this. It was a long podcast. That was the intent, because like last Friday to then now, today's Tuesday. Usually I had been recording Mondays and Fridays, but because of unknown circumstances, I knew I was going to go long today, and so I will do this when I can, while I can, and I hope you get something from it, and then we can have a conversation about it. You can leave me an email, you can leave me a comment, subscribe. It all helps. Right now, I believe I have 27 subscribers. So for you 27 that see my activity a little more frequently, I appreciate it. Thank you. It goes a long way, because for one, this is just the beginning, but also like it's when you have ideas and you put them and you try to formulate and put them down and have them make sense. It's like, okay, cool. I have someone to talk to. I'm talking to you. I look in the camera. I talk to you. So hopefully you grab something from this, and then you can move forward with whatever, or we can move forward together, whatever it may be. But we can do that thing. I think I said andyacosta.blog, Instagram, social media, all that stuff. It's all on there. That's a very minimum. It's one blog a month, and then we'll build from there. Because I'm just trying to build consistency right now. That's probably my biggest thing as far as all this goes. Is consistency. Consistency. It's like a tongue twister. It's pretty cool. Take care of yourself mentally and physically. Lead from the front if you have a team. Ask for help when you need help. Whether you're the leader of the team or you're a part of the team, when you need help, ask for help. If you feel overwhelmed, you're probably because you need to ask for help of some sort. Get a walk in, a jog, a lift, whatever it looks like for you. I'm trying to. I weighed myself. I got weighed last week. Why didn't I have to weigh myself? I got weighed last week, and I'm like last week I was at 237, 238, around there, which is heavy. Like Moto. If some of you might get the reference, some of you might not get the reference, but Moto big, and I'm trying not to look up Moto Madagascar, and you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to be like that guy. I'm trying to be a little more meta. I don't know, something else. Not Moto Madagascar. Anyways, so that's why that one really struck a chord. I'm like, okay, so I had been already working out for almost 2 weeks going into that weigh-in. So it's like I probably actually lost some weight, as I've worked out and then done that. But now it's a dietary thing as well. It's always a dietary thing, but it's working out. It's a dietary thing. I still have some sweet tea because I'm in the South. Like, how am I not gonna have sweet tea? Come on. But outside of the sweet tea, for meals I've been drinking water, and so that's that. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your week. If I don't see you until next time, I don't know when that is. Again, it's a hard thing because like I mentioned last week, I use this to, I didn't mention this last week. I mentioned this on something I was trying out and didn't work. But it's like I use this to decompress from work. This helps me kind of get my mind off work-related things. This helps me just kind of navigate and do things to keep my mental health good. And so here we are. There we are. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Gonna turn on the music, and I'll see you all next time.
interest.